The miracle of Brillo's is not that other creatures can live inside the whales. This sort of arrangement is not uncommon. You, the viewing audience, have countless residents inside your own body. The miracle of Brillo whales is their ability to pick and choose their occupants. Our whale will now begin this process of selection. Providing a backdrop for the next chapter is another amazing marine animal whose colorful anatomy can construct whole ecosystems. Our Earth audience will find it a familiar species. It is the reef-building coral. A Bikili fish gently picks her way along a mountainous path of calcium carbonate exoskeletons. It's her daily prowl for food, and something tasty has her attention. Plump, bite-sized greebles are entrenched in the nooks below. It'll take her quite a bit of work to pry them out. As the Bikili calculates the best approach of attack, her preparations are interrupted. She joins the other fish fleeing for their lives. A higher caste of the food chain steals the scene. It's a spotted barnacle claw. One powerful yank extracts the entire colony hiding below. The host Brillo whale groans with dissatisfaction. This isn't a meal fit for a leviathan. They will continue browsing for something more substantial. Our whale watches the drama unfold from a safe distance, somewhat perplexed. In the 6 years since we last rejoined him, the Great Reef has not run short of new surprises. From near and far, one can hear the calls of unknown Brillos bounding off these cavernous walls. At least he still has someone familiar to rely on. His adoptive mother is usually out of sight, but never too far away. She has changed quite a great deal since we last saw her. Perhaps in response to the Penumbra shark attack, she has undergone a zealous application of eye spots to her figure. While not as outwardly apparent, our young whale's body has undergone an even more radical change. His skin layers and immune system have fully developed and are ready to host other species. This dermatological puberty is the crossroad. He must decide what sort of Brillo he will become. How does a young whale make such a crucial decision? The choices are overwhelming, the combinations are infinite, and mistakes are fatal. One way to ensure future success is to replicate past success. Brillo youths find a welcoming adult and attempt to fashion themselves in their likeness. The older whale assists with offerings of seeds, eggs, larvae, and other materials needed to begin the garden. The younger whale remains close for the years after, learning new behavior from the adult. Not every option available to a young whale is desirable. This old-timer is welcoming, but our whale is visibly uncomfortable. It isn't hard to imagine why, but on the other hand, another young Brillo might happily accept this body plan. What shapes such individual preference? Realistically, there are far too many influences to chart, but from our limited data, there is one factor that stands out. We estimate that half of Brillos choose to replicate their own mothers. Our whale displays this preference towards his biological mother. These ribbon plants are the same variety she once wore. Our calf returns here every day, but it is no use. This Brillo whale is deceased. Nothing but a cleaned skeleton remains beneath the foliage. While it is interesting that the garden can partially survive on, none of it can be transferred without the living adult to help. Our whale must find comfort in the familiar scent and touch. However, time spent on what he cannot have is time wasted. Waiting too long to start a garden could bring other health complications. He will have to move on. Our whale goes on a search for another plant-based Brillo. For reasons unknown, such Brillos are conspicuously absent this season. It seems as if anything resembling his mother has migrated elsewhere. One single exception is discovered. And he is a spectacular example of aquatic foliage. The shaggy coat is as full and beautiful as the late mother's. But not all Brillos are welcoming. Day after day, he tries to draw the adult into play, and day after day receives the cold shoulder. The adult flatly refuses to acknowledge his existence. This male has tunnel vision on the single purpose of mating. Babysitting is not on the agenda. We watch an attempt to woo a female fail pitifully. She is clearly put off by his little sidekick, tugging roughly on his leaves. Days of pent-up agitation are suddenly unloaded. Our whale is chased off at the point of a skewer. It may feel like a painful sacrifice, but a plant body is not an option. There's a dizzying amount of other choices remaining, and one of them will have to do. Another morning dawns. The nocturnal animals have returned to slumber, and the frantic energy of diurnal animals resumes. For our researchers, every day following the whale is a journey into an uncharted wilderness. Only a small fraction of the species here have been recorded. And there is so much inexplicable behavior to document. Recent discoveries have centered on the varieties of coral present. The reef itself is now understood to be a multi-layered structure. Progress and knowledge march forward through tireless work, but we often share in our young whale's bewilderment. Who is this? What is on his head? What is going on? We do not know. Our whale runs away, and we simply follow. One afternoon, it seems our young whale's persistent searching has been rewarded. A loud song heralds him from the distance. A Brillo hunting party returns. Their high spirits means that all had a good kill. The group's leader is calling to our whale. Our youth remains in place but allows the adult to approach. These whales are sophisticated pack hunters. The chowper, a stupid but friendly shark, totally accepts the Brillos as their own. Compared to the painful transmogrification other Brillos endure, this silky costume is minimally invasive and provides maximum returns. And it's a plant. This successful symbiosis strategy is limited only by the pack's willingness to share it with others. An open invitation from the leader is a golden opportunity. Something isn't right. Our whale is fixated on the chowper. It is a tragedy that our whale seems unable to tolerate sharks of any kind. He flees. Over the weeks, we observe our subject whale becoming increasingly distressed. It is critical he suppress unpleasant feelings and adopt a symbiosis plan. A Brillo whale cannot survive unplanted. He can perceive himself failing to integrate, of course, but the building internal agitation is not a force that will help him adapt better. Autumn draws to a close. Several new varieties of Brillo begin to arrive from colder latitudes. These are mostly hunter archetypes who can live a life less dependent on the reef's concentrated bounty. A camouflaged whale waits for prey to swim near. This kind of strategy requires a good deal of patience. Our whale, sensing the hunter, swims wide. The camo whale politely hails him. Other Brillo whales aren't the target of his trap. Our whale replies with mistrust and leaves. Something is wrong. Our whale's once irrepressible curiosity has grown increasingly muted. Even wonders like bioluminescence provokes no reaction. These lamplighter fish are practicing their jousting in preparation for the annual mating competition. The event is soon. It's only a one-night affair, and they will all die immediately afterwards. We think it would be quite the enriching spectacle. But the fish seem to be of no interest. Our research objectives all involve how a planted Brillo changes gene expression throughout its life. An unplanted whale is no use to us. There is a fear that our biometric implants have been invested on a losing whale. But before we can discuss contingency plans, our Brillo finally begins to break bad habits. This unknown youth has snagged a lamplighter and presents it now to our whale. Perhaps he was enthused to share his catch and our whale happened to be closest. Brillo interactions can be opaque, but these two have clearly hit it off. For once, our whale does not withdraw. He is proactively engaging instead of passively responding. It's a much welcome scene, but it begs the question, what changed? What external factors could have contributed to a more outgoing posture? Did our cameras miss a life-changing event? Does this stranger seem less threatening than all the others? It is true that our whale, having been born outside the herd, has consistently lacked peer contact his own age. Young Brillos cannot transmit garden organisms between each other, so the interaction here probably feels less fraught than it might with an adult, who could permanently dose him with life-altering symbiosis. We hypothesize that juvenile Brillo association is a necessary prior step to adult interaction. Regardless of how correct this assertion is, it successfully buys our study additional time. The two whales spend the rest of the day playing and are still chasing fish together when we leave them. Night falls. But our whale is not asleep. GPS coordinates show he is swimming somewhere. As his aberrant behavior is still under scrutiny, the team moves to investigate. A spotlight is aimed overboard. We discover more than just our whale. He is traveling with a pod of other youths. They all sing with curiosity at the sudden lights shining from above. We cut the power to avoid further disturbance. It's soon clear where the Brillos are headed. The first glimmers of action appear in the near distance. The night of the lamplighter fish has begun. The ocean starts to flash brilliantly as males battle for the attention of females. The weak are pierced open, spilling bioluminescence into the water. They shine with complete indifference to predators attacking. Known as predator satiation, there are simply too many to all be eaten. His belly full of glowing fish bits, our whale watches the show reach its climax. It seems like he'll be up all night with the others. Confident in his safety, we recall our camera drones to finish their scheduled recharge. By blocking wave activity, the barrier reef creates a wide lagoon behind it. The placid water stretches for several kilometers before being overtaken by a mangrove forest. Parts are so shallow that they become exposed to air at low tide. At high tide, other areas are deep enough for a troublesome young whale to get lost in. His friends weren't adventurous enough to follow him today. And for good reason, as our whale realizes once the water level starts to drop again. There's no time to play with the locals. The outgoing seawater feeds to several deep channels. Whisked through the trenches, our whale rides the rip current to safety, with no control over where it's taking him. After a lengthy ride, he is spat out far from where he began. This is the end of the Great Reef. It's exposed and dangerous territory, but our whale can't help himself from having a look around. There's a sudden realization that he's being watched. Something is stirring within the cave behind him. It's another Brillo whale. Our whale approaches, but there is no friendly greeting. This isolated loner is an exile from the herd. Banishment is reserved for excessive violence against fellow Brillos. Most likely it was a mating joust that escalated to fatal combat. A deteriorated mental state from years of isolation is what has made him truly dangerous. Our Brillo can understand that a noiseless approach signals an attack. He whistles another greeting. It's met with an oppressive silence. The crown of a shark's jaw attests to this whale's staggering strength. But his secret weapon lies inside the crow's nest atop his hardened armor. The Vorpix octopus wakes when it senses a kill is imminent. He serves the role of a hunting partner who swims in advance. Usually it latches over the eyes of prey and attacks with its serrated beak. But when prey is so pitifully weak, he prefers to spectate. Our whale is far from being scared. He's experiencing a whole other emotion. He knows. This was unexpected. Abandoning caution, the calf sings and plays like he's found a new friend. He goes in for a nuzzle and the harsh exterior cracks. How long has it been since the old-timer experienced any warmth of companionship? Maybe having a little apprentice killer won't be so bad. He grunts, struggling to remember a song that isn't also a threat. This isn't the scene of bloodshed that the octopus wanted. It seems he's witnessed this cycle once before, as he knows what must be done. The vorpix presents our whale with a living piece of the armor plating. A quick feel for the soft spot. And the deed is done. When the young whale wakes up, the implant will already have sprouted roots to hold firmly fixed in his skin. With this major milestone now documented, the mobile lab departs and will not rejoin the whale again until his adulthood. Implants will continue to transmit information about his physical development for a 20-year remote observation period. This also ends the documentary team's access to the whale and concludes the first phase of our project. For us, raw data is far less compelling than first-hand observation of his body being reconstructed. 20 years is a long time for impatient humans to wait. When we do meet our whale again, it is hard to guess now what we might find. All the changes he experiences over 2 decades will be witnessed in a single moment. It should be nothing short of a complete metamorphosis.